Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back to the show. We are excited to have our metaphysical company here live today on the podcast and Zoomcast, Gina Crosheck. She's the owner of PrismsScape's Gems and Healing Center based out of Iowa City, Iowa. We're here to talk more about the work she does with energy, with healing, with crystals, and really just being in divine service. So we're excited she's back here today joining us live. How are you?
I'm doing great. We've
I
got a
have to say,
beautiful fall day.
I know we have a beautiful summer day. It's like 80 degrees here in New York.
Uh,
What is
uh,
happening? We haven't had rain in weeks. It's just like this major heat up. It's not breaking record books. But I won't say anything bad about it because it's enjoyable for now because we know the cold weather's coming in,
right,
right?
right,
But
right.
I have to just commend you for last week's show. Gina was the only one of my guests all day that wanted to dress up, play, and have fun. So I commend you on that, and you really put an extra spark in your step last week, and thank you for
Thank
that.
you. You're very welcome.
All right. Tell us a little bit about PrismsScape, what it is, and the website. Prisms, spelled Prisms, scape, SCAPE.com. That's the website. Go ahead. What do you want to say?
And so we are a crystal shop and a healing center. So we
Mm-hmm.
combine a whole variety of alternative healing modalities, including integrative kinesiology. We have cranial sacral therapy, and we
Mm-hmm.
have meditation, of course, and Reiki and past life regression. But and we also have probably one of the largest varieties of crystals in the area.
You sure do. Yes. Tell me, what type of crystals? Everything and anything, right? That can help with anything and
Pretty
everything.
much. And so today, it would be fun to just talk, since we're coming into the season of
Wow.
Thanksgiving and gratitude and
Mm-hmm.
holidays, and a lot of people are pretty traumatized with the election. And so it seemed like it was very important to focus on some of the positive things that are related to our hearts and to our
Yeah.
feelings. And so talking about unconditional love and what that means and some of the qualities. And I brought a few crystals to go along with it.
Beautiful. Well, we're excited you did and glad that you're back with us. Thank you so much for that. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
let's get started to talk more about these unconditional love and divine qualities of unconditional love, right? So, where do we start?
Mhm.
Strength?
So, yes. So I was talking with a friend yesterday about it, and we sort of made a list of different characteristics contained within unconditional love. And
Okay.
before I get into them, I want to say that probably one of the ways in which I feel like I learned about unconditional love was dealing with family members who had different kinds of issues. And so many of us have struggled with some of the things going on with family members, particularly if there's addiction or abuse or things like that involved in terms of how we interact with them. And while we're interacting, we're still loving them unconditionally. We're not expecting, we just allow whatever is going on to
Yeah.
unfold and do the best we can with love in our heart. And so to actually engage in that, one of the things we have to have is strength. It's real easy to walk away, and but in most cases, when we're challenged with it, it becomes very important that we maintain our integrity. And so, yeah, so strength is one of them, patience. Oh my goodness. Now, how patient are you with some some others?
I have two kids, 7 and 9. We live alone. My patience wears thin every day, and I try to remind myself it's horrible, and I really need more patience. I need that patience and that strength to get through. I need both. I need a
Yeah,
lot. It's a
yes,
lot.
it is a
Um,
lot.
and you forget the virtue of patience and how amazing it can make you feel and be. So I need to work on that. Thanks for reminding me. Hmm.
Well, and it's also something to teach your children.
Yeah.
in terms of going through it. And so, yeah. But, and one of the other things, and I have a stone for this one, is compassion.
Ooh.
So I think compassion is one of those things that I began to learn when my first husband was ill.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people didn't come to see him. And I was like, I wanted company.
Yeah.
And he would get, he was at, had to be at the house the whole day by himself. And because I was working in a high profile job at the university. And to come to an understanding and allow compassion to unfold and to understand that, a lot of people, it's almost impossible for them to be around someone who's ill. They hate to see the diminishment of the individual because they have this hero in front of them or this person that they've always loved. This is particularly true with our elders and seeing your grandfather or grandmother go from one stage of life to another. And oh, it's just such a bother to go visit them or something like that. And so compassion and understanding when people are unable to fulfill what you want them to do. We have expectations of others. And so that is one of the more wonderful things to become familiar with and to be able to um, integrate it into our lives. That's one of the things that's part of being, if you're going to be unconditionally loving, that's one of the things that's going to be important to us.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a goddess, Kuan Yin, who
Oh.
is the goddess of compassion.
Ooh.
And Mother Mary is also the goddess of compassion
Okay.
in terms of lending. If you're, it's one of those things where if you're in a situation and you're going, geez, I really wish I could have more of these qualities, then you might want to call
Yes.
on Kuan Yin or call on Mother Mary. So,
Oh
but
my goodness.
yeah, and I have a stone that I think is a really good one for this, and it is
Ooh.
apophyllite,
Hmm.
and it comes out of the Himalayas,
Oh.
and it is just one of the most, it's a stone when I sat with it.
Is
It
it
told
beige and orangey? I'm trying to see
It's
inside.
real white. It's
White?
got a little bit of beige on it and it's got a little bit of orange on it. And I'll show you another piece because yeah, that's a different stone right
Pretty.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'll show you just the single point of it.
Sure. Ooh.
Isn't that
It's like
just
a
gorgeous?
diamond. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it is just absolutely exquisite. And so it's a stone of compassion. When I sat with it, it's also said it was a stone of the creator. And so it's going to be one to allow us to get in touch with divine qualities. And we often,
Wow. I
which
like
is something
that.
that all of us don't think about very often. But if you've got it with you, it can be very, very useful.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And so then we need to, if we're going to really work on building
Mm-hmm.
unconditional love or the ability to love unconditionally, um, we have to have respect. I think that that's one of the things that so
Yeah.
many of us, yeah, we witness people not being respectful. And we're going, and of course, with my generation, it was something you just were, it was drilled into you. And, but not everyone accept the drilling. Some of
Mm-hmm.
us just, when we get into this whole business of judging others indiscriminately, then it starts to take away our ability to respect the individual who's there. So in the one of the things that I found interesting and love about the Buddhist tradition is Thich Nhat Hanh, who is one of the
Who's that?
more Thich Nhat Hanh. And he was a Buddhist teacher,
Okay.
but he was also um, a Christian. And
Hmm.
so he was a very interesting man. He came out of the during the Vietnam War, he had been imprisoned for, I think, 20 or 25 years. And he came out of, when he came out of prison, he became just a master teacher to help us start to learn about things
Wow.
like compassion and respect and all of the different things. But one of the things that he taught was that when we are do this to another person, how they'll follow the tradition of bowing. It
Hmm.
is, I am recognizing the divine within you. And so when you're meeting and greeting someone and the two of you
Do
put
the.
your hands
Hmm.
together and another way of respecting and honoring that divinity within each of us, I think it becomes important, particularly if people have differences of opinion on certain.
Okay.
It becomes very important for us to always be able to see that divine spark within the other person because we really are brothers and sisters. And that's just part of why we're here on the planet, is to recognize that and then to work with each other and to figure out and to teach ourselves, but allow our heart to speak through us. And so that's where the unconditional love comes from. And so respect. And one of the things that I think is essential in just living is humor.
Yep.
You know, it's sort of like us dressing up at Halloween. And here we are at our age and loving getting into costume.
Makes it feel good, makes it feel young and vibrant.
Yes,
I'm a
yes.
proponent of that. I spoke to someone last week. They're like, I never dressed up and I felt so bad. Like she doesn't know what she's missing, but in her world, they didn't do dress up as a child and I feel bad. I'm like, oh, you don't know what you're missing.
But it was, I mean, and it was so, we had so much fun.
Yeah.
And it is such an interesting thing that happens when you go into a costume. You're able to all of a sudden see the world in a different perspective,
Yeah.
different eyes. And that's part of what I think is really important. And then one of the things that I we have a Facebook page for the business, and I also have a personal one. But a lot of cartoons show up when different things are going on to help us see the humor in whatever is going on in the world. And
Hmm.
that's always useful.
Beautiful. What else you
Mhm.
got?
Acceptance.
Okay.
And that I think is probably one of the more difficult ones when we allow people to be themselves.
Okay.
And because a lot of times we don't want them to be like that. You have a
Hmm.
lot of that happening around some of the gender identity issues. And so learning to accept others as they are rather than saying, no, you have to be
And
this way and
change.
that way.
Yep.
Well, and I grew up in the South, and growing up in the South, you are particularly my generation. There are certain ways that young women, it is what you are supposed to do. You're supposed to dress a certain way, you're supposed to talk a certain way, you are supposed to behave a certain way. As my mother always said, now you're a young lady, and it is important for you to be a young lady. So when the 60s came along, and all of a sudden I'm giving up my long line panty girdle as
Hmm.
opposed to, then it was a whole different world in
Yeah.
terms of how you fit into the mold that people think you're supposed to fit into. So
Hmm.
acceptance becomes a part of that unconditional love. And then probably one of the things that I consider to be one of the hardest things is forgiveness. And I have a couple of stones for that. And this one is called diaptase.
Okay. Ooh,
and it is also called the Emerald of Africa.
that's like emerald, jadey, shiny.
Isn't that just absolutely exquisite? And
Okay.
it comes primarily out of the Congo. You can also have
Wow.
diamonds out of Mexico, but this is just a stone. So if you're ever questioning or having trouble with forgiving someone, because it's like you can grow up with the saying, I can forgive them, but I can never forget what they did. And so it's really hard to forgive someone if you're still wallowing in the memory of whatever harm they gave you. And so stepping back and trying to work with that whole
Mm-hmm.
business of how to feel around forgiveness and allowing, again, it's that whole business of someone allowing ourselves to see someone in a different light, and a light where they're not the person who harmed us or caused us pain, then they're just, and then taking a new look at them. So it's one of the things that happens in some of my sessions with people is an eagle will come and ask them to have different eyes. It's time for you to see with new eyes. And so if we can, when to work with forgiveness, it's that whole matter of starting to be able to see with new eyes, see the person, how they've changed, what's different, how is it going to make a difference in their life and in my life. And so
Wow.
forgiveness is one of the others. I'll show you one more piece of diet face because it's just such a absolutely beautiful stone. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, those crystals just in well, they're gem quality. So they're pretty
Like, how
special.
expensive is that?
$148.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because when the crystal and structure, there are a couple of stones like that. So you have diaptase, you have there's another one, azurite, several of the stones. When the crystal becomes so vibrant and so beautiful, the cost of it goes up, as opposed to just we have some that's real rough. So
Oh my goodness.
yeah.
Now, where do you keep all these stones? Do you have to keep them like dry, like in rice or something, or do they have to be stored a certain way to keep their
No,
credibility, or no? They can just stay out.
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can they get
They're
wet?
they can get wet.
Okay.
They have a copper base, so that's where the green comes from.
Okay.
And there are a few crystals that you cannot get wet, and probably one of them that was best known is selenite, which is the one that's the crystallized divine energy, and it will melt, and the salt lamps melt. So people will come in and say, "Well, my salt lamp is shedding," and the reason for the shedding is the humidity, and it's too close to something that has a lot of humidity. And
Mm.
so those are two of the primary ones that, and calcite. We were looking for spheres for a landscaping project. This family wants some large spheres,
Okay.
and which stones could we use in that kind of situation? And calcite, the different calcites, um, they they don't do well. They're a real soft stone, so you need a really hard stone like an obsidian
Mm-hmm.
or rose quartz. Rose quartz can stay outside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does anything change the qualities or the principles of these, stones? Like heat, light, like anything we need to be aware of that could change its core in a sense, its
So
essence.
not the essence of the stone.
Okay.
The stone will always have its own essence, and but you can change. For instance, there are certain stones that will fade in bright sunlight, so it becomes important to keep them in
Okay.
indirect light.
Okay.
And heat, well, some of them will just break
Okay.
if it gets too hot. So you don't want to put them on a stove and cook them. So, yeah,
Hmm. Good
because
to know.
otherwise you can disrupt the matrix of the stone itself. So it becomes important to keep them um, dry and to keep them out of the direct sunlight. So, yeah.
Well, also, you mentioned the integrity and truth and strength, and these are all things. What's, I know it's unsettling at times, right? Let's say with the election, there's so
Mhm.
much drama. And no matter who wins, it's like we have to all move on, live together. And like, but there are some
Yes,
people, I'm looking online at the news articles that they are really devastated.
yes,
And it's just like heartbreaking, but at the same time, it's like what could help them recover from this, you know? And doesn't matter what your political view is, but come on, we have an election. Those are the results. We're not going to change it. So let's
right.
embrace it and do the best we can. Is there anything that they should be thinking of doing? What type of stones do they need to get over this? I feel bad. The other side of me is like, no, you got to change your way of thinking. I shouldn't feel bad.
So part of it, that's why we're doing this talk
Okay.
today. That's why we're talking about unconditional love.
Yep.
There's some stones that emit just the unconditional love,
Okay.
and this is one of them. It is a kunzite. It's a very pale pink,
Okay.
and so it's one that you could carry in your pocket.
Okay.
And here's a larger piece. Comes out of Pakistan,
Okay.
and it's like there are no qualifications onto what the energy of this stone will do to help soothe you and to bring peace to you and
Wow.
to help you uh, really calm down, start to
Wow.
put things into perspective. And
Hmm.
another stone that does that as well is rhodochrosite.
Ooh.
It's
Hmm.
a very different kind of stone. It's polished. Let me
Okay.
show you another couple of
Sure.
pieces. So this is one that has been shaped
Okay.
and it's pink and white.
Oh,
So
pretty.
pink is one of the primary colors of the heart. The heart chakra is pink and green. And so that's why you've got the diaptase as well as the pink. But this one is probably one of the more interesting stones. Because it's banded.
That's pretty.
Isn't that beautiful?
How old are these stones? Like, how old can they be? My goodness.
Millions of years old.
Wow.
They are
Okay.
some of them, they've been growing for thousands, for millennia,
Wow.
thousands of years. So what is interesting is that, and they have a certain vibration or a certain frequency
Hmm.
about them. And these are very high frequency or high vibration stones. And so many of the stones have in since the 1980s, 1960s, 1980s, we have brought in a lot of new stones. We've
Hmm.
discovered a lot of new stones, and generally they always are vibrating just at the level of just love, unconditional love. And so one of them that's very popular is the ring that I have, and it is Larimar.
Wow.
And it
Wow.
comes from a single place in the world. It
Okay.
comes from the Dominican Republic, and you'll find it no place else. So what's fascinating to me is that many of the new crystals that we've just learned about are only available in one place. So there's a
Okay.
stone called sugilite, and it is a beautiful dark purple, and it comes only from South Africa. And
Wow.
it's considered to be a treasure to the state of South Africa. So yeah,
Amazing.
yeah. But in terms of the essence, the consciousness of the stones is going to be there
Mm-hmm.
because they have a consciousness. Different people say at different levels of or different dimensions, but they're there just emitting the energy and they're willing to give it without question.
Yep.
And it is one of the more remarkable things about the crystals is that they're always willing to be there to assist us with whatever we need at that time.
Do people like sleep with these under their mattresses, under
Some
their
people
bed, under their
sleep, yeah,
pillow?
some people do, yes,
Oh,
absolutely. Particularly, well, it's like just, well, for instance, we have a stone called dragon skin quartz.
okay.
And there are several of us who keep our dragons by our bedside, and they're good for absorbing whatever we're ready to get rid of. Because at nighttime, once we do get to sleep, we start releasing.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our volunteers was talking about going to bed with one of the stones on her third eye, and then it falls off, and then she'll move it. But it's, yes, people do sleep with them under their pillow, but you want to make sure about the energy of the stones in your bedroom because sometimes they'll keep you
Oh,
awake.
really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we got to be
So,
careful how that could affect us. I didn't know that, Gina.
yes, yes, because of the energy, the high the quality of the
Wow.
energy. We had one woman who had purchased a dragon skin quartz, a dragon,
Oh my
and she
gosh.
said that it kept her awake all night. And so she banished it
Oh wow.
to the piano room, to the music room, and then it started
Oh
complaining.
my gosh.
And so I just said to her, I said, have you ever thought to ask it to be quiet and explain that you're going to sleep? And so she said, oh, I'll try that. And
I
so
could
she
do
did,
that.
and it can now be in her bedroom. So one of the things that I have found is that because stones are conscious, it becomes very important for us to understand we can have a conversation with them. They understand when we ask them to be quiet, that they need to set. It's like with the kids when they get so
Yeah.
ramped up,
Mm-hmm.
it's like settling them down. And so talking with them and just explaining what's needed at that time.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Oh, well, thank you so much for being here as always, joining us, guiding us, teaching us. How can we
thank you.
contact you, Ms. Crosheck? Tell us.
So you can contact us at info@prismscape.com,
Mm-hmm.
PrismsScape. And the phone number is 319-351 2907.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here, for joining us.
Thank
And,
you.
it's going to be a good week, and we need everyone to kind of relax after the election, get through it. Stressful holidays coming up. But again, unconditional love, divine qualities. We could do this. We could do
Yes,
this, and let's get things settled instead of being
yes.
unsettled. Thank you so much. You have a
Okay,
fantastic
thank
day,
you very
okay?
much.
You're welcome. And to all of our listeners, stay tuned. We'll be right back with
Okay.
more.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.